What's going on, everybody? I hope you're having a fantastic day out there. I'm having a pretty good day. But I have noticed, first, let me say thank you. I want to say thank you to everybody who's been liking all the videos and sharing them and sharing your opinions, whether you agree or disagree on whatever topics it is that's being discussed. I appreciate the feedback. It does help. It helps in the algorithm. So shout out to you guys, especially the new followers on Pilled, the people that have followed me on Pilled. I appreciate that. Pilled.net. If you haven't went over there, please go over there and create you an account. It's free. We do our conspiracy topics over there. So to all the new people that have been following me out of nowhere, we had some more followers hit my Facebook. So thank you for that. Instagram is the same thing, but YouTube has been making me proud. The YouTube is growing. So I appreciate all of you guys that share these videos out and comment and like it, all of that, because it helps. This video that I'm about to do today, you guys seen yesterday when I did the video talking about what's going on over there in Israel and Palestine and giving a little bit more perspective. So in doing that, it created a whole bunch of conversation in the comment section of that video, which I pay attention to. So I went in there and I read the comments. There was a couple great points that was talked about in there. So I didn't know that the video that I had shared was actually from biased. I didn't think it was biased, but from looking into it now, I understand that it is biased because of the news source that it came from, the person that paid for that publishing, right? Al Jazeera. I don't know anything about it. I think I've heard the name before. But it is biased towards Israel and favors the other side. So the brother recommended another video, which is a different stance. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I haven't watched this video yet. I don't know what's in this video, but he challenged me to listen to it. And he said it would change my mind on how I feel, which, by the way, everybody knows how I feel. If you follow me on all these other platforms, you know my stance. I love people, plain and simple. I love people. I don't care what country they're from. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care what color they are. I love people. All right. I'm always going to stand with the people. I'm against war. I'm anti-war. I understand it, though. And I only say that because of the way that I've been aligned in my life. You feel me? I understand civilization, wars happen. I get it. Doesn't mean I'm okay with it, but I understand it. All right. So let's keep it going. We're going to dive into this. Let's go.
The Zionists stole the Palestinians' land, massacred them, and kick them out of their homes. That is what you hear from the Palestinians and their supporters. In this video, I will be discussing the Nakba, which is the Arab name of the Palestinian disaster of 1948. I will be covering the partition plan, Plan Daled, Dir Yassin, and much more. But this time, my approach will be to take a video by Vox Media Group that talks about that same subject, but from a Palestinian point of view. And then we could dismantle it together. Just so you know, Vox is an American progressive media group that was founded by Ezra Klein, an American Jew. I chose this video because it was carefully crafted to show the Palestinian narrative. Let's start, as there is a lot to unpack. I've added timestamps so you can jump to the Dir Yassin or Plan Daled. And I've also...
I like this guy already. So what he's doing is taking a video that was created by this group that created a video also that I shared yesterday and gave my commentary on. But what he's about to do is just unpack it. And I guess he's about to hit us with some facts. He got his laptop open in front of him, so it looks like he's about to get to work. So let's dive in and see.
So left a link to the full Vox video below.
That history has been carefully concealed, purposefully distorted, and in the West, largely forgotten.
This is a good one. I like the effect of having the Hebrew document and all the lines crossed out in black, as if they are onto a really big secret, really concealed and forgotten in the West. Dir Yassin has probably had more articles and papers written about it than any other event in the war of 1948. The number of dead was around 100. There are not many events with such a low number of casualties that have gotten so much attention. I will be coming back to this towards the end of the video.
The massacre in this village was one of many in a series of catastrophic events.
Really? Then why is Dir Yassin always the example given? It's like when you only have one example, so you just say, etc.
When hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were violently displaced from their homeland, in order to create the state of Israel.
This is key to understanding the false Palestinian narrative.
Now wait, before he says his part, excuse me. So it's my belief as of right now. See, he might change me, right? It's my belief as of right now that in what was called Palestine, it wasn't just Palestinians that we know today. The Palestinians was also Jewish. There were Jewish Palestinians and Arab Palestinians. So that's my understanding. So let's see.
No, this is not what happened. The Palestinians were offered a state, they rejected it, they started to kill Jewish civilians, and then lost the war that they had started. More about that shortly.
Whoa.
The borders of Palestine have been changed forcefully over time, but
Whoa.
historically, this region has been home to Palestinians for centuries.
I've said it many times before in different videos, but I'm happy to repeat it again here. No, not true. Until the beginning of the 20th century, there was no such a thing as Palestinian people.
Yes, we know
Thousands of pilgrims visited the land of Israel in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. Not a single one of them saw or met a Palestinian. At the time of the Ottoman Empire, which used to control the region, there were Muslims, Arabs, Bedouins, Christians, Jews, Druze,
I was right about
Circassians.
that.
All people have the right to self-determination, but you don't have the right to reinvent history.
Migration helped the Zionist movement gain steam, and a slogan took off: a land without people for a people without land.
And it sends a message to Western leaders that the people who had been living in Palestine for generations could just be easily moved elsewhere.
Here we have just 4 sentences, and Fox managed to squeeze so much misinformation into
I ain't gonna lie, it got me. that one got me right there. I want to see what he says.
them. Fox want to show you that the Jews planned the transfer of the Arabs. The thing is that in all Zionist documents, from the first Zionist Congress to the Israeli Declaration of Independence, there is absolutely nothing to support this theory. They actually state the opposite, that all people will enjoy equal rights. The slogan, "A land without people for a people without land," was said by Israel Zangwill at the end of the 19th century in Britain. At that time, the land of Israel was a neglected part of the Ottoman Empire. So to take a sentence that was said in Britain about 30 years before the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and to claim that that was the policy in the 1930s is pure manipulation. It is claimed in the video that it sends a message to the West that people could be easily removed. Who sends a message? The Zionist movement never said anything about removing non-Jews from the land. On the contrary, the Zionist movement said very clearly that all people from all religions could be granted their human rights. Now, the next sentence is that...
Wait a minute. See, now they got me scratching my head a little bit. Okay, it's got me scratching my head a little bit because just seen yesterday from a Palestinian woman who said, and a Jewish man who is obviously pro, or anti-Israel, but we just heard them say that they don't enjoy the same rights. And then also the people that I talk to that are from Palestine say that they don't, or Gaza, don't enjoy the same rights. But there was a great point made in the previous video, which said, no, if they don't claim citizenship in Israel, then of course they don't have the same rights. So what my understanding is starting to become is, did they reject citizenship? So like they were offered citizenship at one point and then rejected it, or were they never even offered citizenship? That's another question that I'm gonna have to answer.
True masterpiece of misinformation. I will say that when you talk about any subject, there will probably be different opinions, and it is hard to know all the details, and you might forget those facts that are not in your favor. But this next sentence shows that they do know the facts, but just turn them around.
Violence broke out, rooted in tensions over land.
Violence broke out just out of the blue. This is like saying in 1939, violence broke out in Europe and the British bombed Germany, or in 1941, violence broke out and the Americans bombed Japanese cities.
Ambiguous.
And now for the truth. In 1920, 1921, 1929, and from 1936 to 39, Arabs attacked the Jews. There were brutal attacks and pogroms against Jews in Jerusalem, Jaffa, Galilee, and Hebron, and in Gaza. Even Israelis don't know this, but until 1921, there were Jews in Gaza. Many ancient Jewish communities, a lot of which had nothing to do with Zionism, were wiped out. The bottom line is very clear. Arabs attacked the Jews, destroyed ancient communities, burned Jewish villages to the ground, and killed Jews living in Jewish settlements. In one of my latest videos, I showed the names of some of the Jewish settlements that were destroyed by Arabs. I will show it again. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, before any Arab left his home, for reasons I will be coming back to, Jews were being attacked, ancient communities were being destroyed, and Jewish settlements were having to be abandoned. This is not the odd bout of violence. This is continuous violence being perpetrated against the Jews by the Arabs. So it is not like violence just broke out in 1948, as Vox.
Okay, so that I can agree with. All right. Now, this is what's the crazy thing, though. They were attacking. So dang, yo, I just had like a epiphany right now, y'all. Okay, so they were attacking Jews in the 1920s. This is 20-something years, 28 years before the state of Israel, which is now their fight, saying that they're being occupied. They were coming at them just for being Jews because of a difference of religion. Because we already know, Islam, not true Islam. I don't want to say that. I don't want to, discount any people that are practicing Muslims that practice it in a peaceful manner. But there are a lot of radicals that come along with that religion. And I can easily see how they would, attack people who they were considering infidels. So, yeah, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about none of that. Let's keep going.
Would have us believe. Let's continue. The next one is also a big one.
And the British began training and arming Zionist militias to suppress the rebellion.
So the British trained the Jews? What can I say? It is true. But Vox has forgotten to mention two important points. First of all, they trained Arabs as well. Both Jews and Arabs work for the British, also as armed forces. And second, they forgot to tell you that in World War II, the British trained the Jews because the Arabs had already made a pact with the Nazis. Silly Vox, they forgot about that.
Oh.
This topic deserves its own video, but here is a brief summary of what happened. The leader of the Palestinians, Amin al-Husseini, lived in Nazi Berlin for 3 years during the war. He met with Hitler and other high-ranking SS officers. The plan was that when Rommel conquered the Middle East, a death camp would be set up in the Dotan Valley and run by the Arabs. Rommel was stopped by Montgomery in El Alamein, but there was another Nazi Arab plan called Operation Atlas. The plan was that a few Arabs and Germans would arrive by air and poison the drinking water of Tel Aviv. The British managed to put a stop to it. You have never heard about these Nazi-Palestinian connections? I don't blame you.
Wow.
The mainstream media doesn't talk about it. Don't believe me? Google Operation Atlas. It is all documented. So yes,
Yo, I believe that 100%. I really don't even need to go and fact check that one. I believe that 100% because we already know about how the Arabs had their involvement in the slave trade. They've been like this from the dawn, from way back. So yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting.
British did arm the Jews against the German Nazis and against the Arab Nazis. Let's continue.
A UN special committee proposed the land be divided into two states, a Jewish state and an Arab state. It was called the Partition Plan of 1947.
We could not accept the partition plan because at that time the population were almost 2-1.
But the plan proposed giving over half the land and often the most fertile areas to the Jewish state.
From a purely pragmatic perspective, the partition plan didn't make much sense for Palestinian Arabs.
Vox should really get an award here, an award for choosing the most misleading words ever. The partition plan didn't make much sense for the Palestinian Arabs. Could it be that by this sentence you meant the Arabs didn't accept the partition plan and so they started shooting at Jewish civilians. Let's unpack this. So the British had enough problems at home and their empire was collapsing. They told the UN to take care of this Jewish-Arab problem. The UN looked into it and decided to split the land into a Jewish state and an Arab state. Neither Jews nor Arabs liked it. However, the Jews were willing to compromise, and the Arabs weren't. Instead, they started killing Jewish civilians. Well, they didn't start, as they had already started in 1920. They continued. This is extremely important to understand, so it bears repeating. In 1947, the Arabs had the possibility of establishing a Palestinian state, and they said no. And as for the claim that the Jews were giving more, even though they were fewer in number, of the land of the British Mandate, the Arabs also got Jordan. Now, I have nothing against the Jordanians, but the Jordanians and the Palestinians are the same people. Both are entities that were simply made up by the British. There was no difference between the Arabs who were living on the eastern side and the western side of the Jordan River. But the point I want to make is that the Arabs had already gotten hold of a large part of the British Mandate land.
Wow.
And if you take Jordan's territory into account as well, the Jews actually got the smaller part. And the claim that the Jews got the most fertile land is a lie. The biggest chunk of land that the Jews got was the desert. And now I want to show you an amazing map. On the left, you can see the map of the partition plan. And on the right, you can see a map of areas infected.
Let's pause that and look at it. Yeah, Jewish state didn't get hardly nothing compared to everybody else. That's, yeah. Dang. Okay.
With malaria. So the Jews were given the desert and the swamps and malaria.
On March 10th, a couple of months before the British mandate would end, the Haganah adopted what was called Plan Dalet, or Plan D. On paper, the main goal was to gain control of the Jewish state, as laid out in the partition plan, while also defending Jewish settlements outside of the borders.
Now let's talk about Tochnit Daled, or Plan D. The pro-Palestinian side doesn't have many cards to play, so they play this Plan D card a lot. But as you will soon understand, this is actually a very weak card. So on the 29th of November 1947, the Jews accepted the partition plan, whereas the Arabs said no and started killing Jews. Their first act was to attack on a bus. In response to that, the Jews started to move in convoys. They added metal plates to the trucks and had armed guards. In response to that, the Arabs started blocking the roads and shooting the convoys. The biggest problem was in Jerusalem. Jerusalem was the biggest Jewish city, home to 100,000 Jews. And the road from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem was in a valley that had Arab villages on the mountains on both sides. Deir Yassin was one of them. In March of 1948, so 4 months after the Arabs had started shooting at Jewish cars, there were 3 disasters for the Jews. 3 convoys were wiped out by the Arabs, 2 of them on their way to the besieged city of Jerusalem. More than 100 Jews carrying supplies were killed. If Jerusalem fell, that would be the end of Israel before it had even been established. Let me remind you that as of March 1948, 1,200 Jews had been murdered by Arabs, and no Jew who fell into Arab hands had been left alive. So if Jerusalem had fallen, you can guess what would happen.
Yeah.
Very scary. So this is the
Hitler
context
2.0.
in which Plan D needs to be viewed. However, if you want to distort reality, you just leave out the context, as Vox does here. The Jews decided to change their strategy, and instead of thinking defensively, they started to think offensively. The idea was to gain control of all the areas along the road to Jerusalem. Plan D proposed that this would be done by first surrounding the Arab villages. If the inhabitants cooperate, there would be a check to see if there were any weapons in the villages. And if there weren't any, then everybody could get on with their lives. If the inhabitants resisted, there would be a fight for control of the villages, and the people would be deported a few kilometers from there to the area that was supposed to be the Arab state. Pro-Palestinian organizations hold up this Plan D as a proof that the Israelis deported Arabs. they completely ignore the fact that it was a military plan and that the Arab murdered hundreds of Jewish civilians and that those Arabs who didn't fight the Jews were allowed to keep on living in their villages. Actually, tens of thousands of Arabs who didn't fight the Jews remained in their villages and cities, whereas not a single Jew was left alive in areas conquered by Arabs. So, what happened in Deir Yassin?
One of the most widely publicized village massacres happened here in Deir Yassin.
So at the beginning of the video, they said that history had been carefully concealed in the West and largely forgotten. And now they are saying that this is the most widely publicized village massacre. So, Vox, you have decided you want to lie? Great, you are very good at it.
Up in their own
But at
video.
least be a little consistent in your lying and don't say two opposite things in the same video. So what did happen in Deir Yassin?
Yo, my man is slick. He's pretty sharp. He's literally breaking down the entire video and calling him out on it. And I gotta respect that. Just like, I respect the brothers that called out the video that I had shared in the comments that gave me this information to find this video, man. I appreciate you guys. If you guys could do me a favor, I know we're taking a brief pause real quick. If you could do me the favor of liking this video and sharing this video. I'm trying to reach 100,000 subs right here on YouTube. All right. We're over halfway there. If you guys can help me meet that goal, I'd appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
As I said, there was a local peace pact, but the people of Deir Yassin broke that pact when they shot at Jewish vehicles and let Arab fighters into the village. By the start of 1948, it was clear to both sides that the local peace pact was no longer relevant. At the beginning of the battle, the Jewish forces used loudspeakers to give the women, children, and elderly time to evacuate. Think about it. Basically, the Jews voluntarily gave up the element of surprise, which is crucial in a battle, so that the civilians would have sufficient time to run away. Do you think that the Arabs ever gave the Jewish civilians time to run away before they attacked?
Yo, and you know what? I gotta say, that is even true today. We gotta say that because on the news, we can prove that right here in America, man. In the news, automatically they're saying Israel is warning the Gaza Strip. They're going to be here at this time. They got a week to leave. Now, this is where it gets so hard to distinguish the truth from the lies, because when they warn them, then you will have the other media saying, oh, Gaza or the Hamas is blocking them from being able to leave and using them as human shields. But it's been proven that Hamas, which is they're the devil, man. Hamas is horrible. All right. I'm always going to speak on the side of Israeli and Palestinian civilians, but I got to tell you, Palestinian people, your government is trash and they are evil and they don't care about you. You probably already know that. But for all of the people that are Hamas sympathizers, I can't get with that. You'll never hear me say that. But they are known to use them as human shields. But where it gets murky at is when you say, man, here's the thing. Israel is giving them food. The Israeli government, which I also think is corrupt. I have my own reasons for that beyond this. But they're giving food to them and the blockade is happening to where they won't allow the food to go in. So then on one media, you got them saying that Israel isn't really sending food. They're blocking the food from coming in. And on the other side, they got them saying, no, it's Hamas that's blocking the food and won't let it get in. And it keeps the people confused over here around the world. So I guess we do have to be a little more careful in the information that we put out, because there's always two sides, But one thing that stands true, no matter which side you decide to stand on, is we need to be standing on the side of the people, plain and simple. This conflict has always been confusing and crazy, but it's gotten way more so. And the DIY mechanic, you already know, my brother, it's all love, man.
Never. Not from 1920 to the 7th of October 2023. Never. The Jewish forces that attacked the village were from the Etzel and the Lehi, which were right-wing paramilitary groups. They didn't have much military experience, and as the battle went on, they started blowing up the houses. Some of the houses held civilians that hadn't evacuated. In the aftermath of the battle, there were 5 Jewish dead and about 100 Arabs dead. Of those Arabs who died, many were fighters, but some were civilians who had hidden in their houses. and there were about 10 to 20 civilians who had been shot by Lehi and Etzel members after they had surrendered. The Deir Yassin battle was small, poorly planned, and poorly executed. A few dozen civilians died during the fighting, and at most, if you take the highest estimation, 40 civilians were shot after they had surrendered. It is a fact that a tragedy occurred in Deir Yassin, and it is fair that the Jews take their share of responsibility, but it is also fair to mention the context, to have a sense of proportion, and to understand that it went both ways. And in fact, the Jews took their share of the responsibility. After the event, the Jewish Agency sent a letter to Abdallah, King of Jordan, condemning the attack, saying it had been carried out by Jewish extremists and that it contradicted Jewish values. And this, my friends, is the true story of Deir Yassin. A few days after the Battle of Deir Yassin, a convoy of the hospital in Jerusalem was attacked by the Arabs. 80 Jewish doctors and nurses were murdered. Vox hasn't dedicated a video to them or to the 130 Jewish civilians who were massacred in Kfar Etzion a month after the Battle of Deir Yassin.
Zionist militias used it as a propaganda tool to tell people about it everywhere. The idea was that if you don't leave, we will do to you what happened in Deir Yassin.
No, not true. The Jewish military or political leaders never used the Deir Yassin battle to urge the Palestinians to leave their homes. It was the Arabs who used the story of Deir Yassin to motivate other Arabs to fight. It was Hussein Khaldi, the former mayor of Jerusalem and a representative of the Arab Higher Committee, who persuaded the Arabs of Deir Yassin to say that there had been more death and rape and that the Jews had used tanks and other things that never happened. The aim was to motivate the Arabs to fight the Jews, but instead of doing that, it motivated them to flee.
After taking Deir Yassin, Zionist paramilitary groups cleared major cities, including Haifa and Jaffa.
Now, Vox made a big mistake here when they used Haifa as an example. Unlike other misleading information in this video, where they intentionally twisted the facts, here they dug a deep hole for themselves, and I'm going to let them fall right into it. The Battle of Haifa is the best example of what really happened to the Arabs in the war and how they came to be refugees. So Haifa was a mixed city, half Jews and half Arabs. The Arabs started shooting at Jewish cars entering Haifa, which led to fighting between the Jewish neighborhoods and the Arabs. Now, Haifa was one of the biggest centers of Arab leaderships. And what did the Arab leadership do? It ran away. Arab gangs started to fight among themselves and rob the local Arabs. The Jewish mayor of Haifa, Moshe Carmel, told the Arabs they could stay and that they would not be hurt. The Arab asked the Mufti, Amin al-Husseini, the head of the Arab High Committee, what to do. And he said, don't surrender to the Jews and don't cooperate with them. Run away, and in a few weeks, the Arab armies will conquer Haifa and you will be able to go back. This is something Vox will not tell you, that the Arab leaders were the first to run away and that the others were told to run away just for a few weeks. And by the way, not a single Jew was able to live in areas conquered by Arabs, but 160,000 Arabs who didn't run away were able to become Israeli citizens.
Yo, that's crazy. I gotta check that. We need to check that. Anybody, if you can verify that, if that's true, then yeah, this is a lot of propaganda that's being spread around, especially right now. It's insane. Somebody please get me a receipt for that.
D became the blueprint for carrying out the ethnic cleansing of historic Palestine to make room for a new state.
No, Deir Yassin is an extreme event that by no means represented the war. And the fact that Deir Yassin is the only example that pro-Palestinians use that goes to show that it wasn't the norm and it wasn't the blueprint. Only a few were forced to flee. The majority chose to flee in hope that they would be able to come back once the Arab armies had defeated Israel. Haifa was the blueprint. The Arabs shot the Jewish civilians. The Arab leadership cowardly ran away. Arab gangs fought each other, and many Arabs ran away thinking that after the Arab armies had eliminated Israel, they would be able to go back.
Neighboring Arab countries that were overwhelmed by Palestinian refugees immediately went to war with Israel.
So the Arab countries attacked Israel in order to help the Palestinian refugees. Sorry to disappoint you, but their motive was not to fight for the Palestinian refugees. Rather, their motive was to wipe out Israel. The second the British left on the 14th
Just like Iran and Lebanon funding, what is it, Hezbollah and all of them, that I can agree with that. I can agree with that because it's not about helping the Palestinians. If you think about this, right? If it was truly a religious thing, right? Like how people try to make it, if it was just this holy war, this religious thing, then don't you think that all these other Arab countries would stop their dealings with America for funding, Israel or giving aid to Israel? Don't you think that they would go there and have their backs? Or I'll make it go even further. Don't you think that they would welcome these people in? Don't you think that they would welcome them in? Just saying.
of May 1948, 5 Arab armies invaded Israel to do one thing only, to destroy Israel and kill all the Jews. Luckily for us, we won.
Turning 6 million Palestinians into refugees without a homeland.
This is an interesting one. If about 700,000 left their homes, why are there 6 million refugees? What I'm going to say now will blow your mind, and the fact that you weren't aware of it until now will make you realize how deeply entrenched the Palestinian narrative or propaganda really is. So, what is a refugee? There are two legal definitions. One that refers to all of the refugees in the world, which is someone who has had to leave their homes due to war or crisis. And there have been hundreds of millions of refugees since 1945. And there is another separate definition for the most privileged refugees in the world, the Palestinians. And the difference is that the Palestinians are the only group in the world that pass this title of being refugees to their children and grandchildren and so on. I don't want you to just take my word for it on this one. Check it out for yourself.
For them, the Nakba isn't just a moment in history. It's a catastrophe that never really ended.
Their catastrophe never ended for two reasons. First, they never took responsibility for their wrongdoing. Second, they keep on trying to wipe out Israel. They said no to a Palestinian state in 1937. They said no again in 1947. From 1948 till 1967, they could have established a Palestinian state. Those areas were under Jordanian and Egyptian control, but they didn't. Yasser Arafat and Abu Mazen also had plenty of chances, but they kept saying no. Golda Meir once said, "Peace will come when the Arabs love their children more than they hate us." Sadly, the Palestinians still bring their children up to hate us. Before I conclude this video, I want to zoom out for a second. I want to show you a map that I really like. Here you can see the world, which is a really big place. It is bigger than Israel. After every world war, the first, the second, and to some degree also the Cold War, there has been a new world order. After World War II, a wave of new countries was established. Here is a quick list: Korea, Indonesia, Pakistan, India, Israel, Jordan, Syria, East and West Germany. From 1945 to 1949, the creation of most of these states and the new borders in Eastern Europe, with Poland being moved to the West, was accompanied by the movements of tens of millions of people. And as you can imagine, the forced movement of tens of millions of people, Germans from the East, Hindus to India, Muslims to Pakistan, Poles, Ukraine, Jews from Arab countries, was nothing but peaceful. Millions died in these mass migrations. The fact that the world is obsessed with the Nakba, with Plan D and the small village of Deir Yassin is a testament to how deeply the Palestinian narrative is rooted in the West and to just how much media coverage the Palestinians get. Vox Media, with its 11 million subscribers, is part of this media circus. I have 200,000 subscribers, and I don't have enough time to debunk all their anti-Israel videos. So if you want to help me spread the word, then like, subscribe, and hit the share button below the video. It will let you share my content on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. With a few clicks, you can help me reach many more viewers. Next week, I will upload a video about the ethnic cleansing of Jews from Muslim countries. So see you next week.
Yo,
Yalla,
I gotta
bye.
cover that one. I'm gonna cover that one. Got to. Yo, I ain't gonna lie. DIY, you was right, bro. That did shed a lot of light. You know, it definitely did. Yeah, that was interesting. So it's safe to say that over here, we are all just fed a bunch of propaganda. And I guess it comes from both sides, because I'm not gonna say that, I agree with everything, but it did open my eyes up with the history lesson on the other side. When they were talking about, I noticed when he was talking about the people, the Arabs that were shooting at the Jews, back in the day. Where in the other video it said that the Arabs were being massacred by the Jews. So it's like it was just a conflict that happened, and I can identify with all of that because I'm from. It's not the Middle East, but they don't call places like Gary, Indiana, Afghanistan, and Chicago, Chirac for no reason. It's our own little wars that happen over here, and it's gangs. It's people. You see a car and you light it up, and then you light it up, and then now you don't even know who started it. You just know that you guys are at odds. And I feel like that's the same thing that's happened over there. So it's like, it's just unfortunate, man. I think what got me paying so much attention to it is I don't like seeing videos of kids and women and bodies laid out over the place because of, I don't know, I guess politics, man. Really, what I'm seeing now is it is over misinformation. Really, they're over there hurting each other because they're raised to hate each other. The kids over there in Palestine are raised to hate them. And then in that video that I showed you guys the other day with the Jewish kids, they were raised to hate them. They said they'll never have them over here. They're our enemies. And so it's just like this deeply rooted, and I can understand, again, I can identify with it because we were raised the same way coming up in my neighborhood, except it wasn't about their religion or their ethnicity. It was about their gang. If you was brought up in this gang, then I'm supposed to hate you. That's just the way we was taught. So I guess it just takes, a cultural shift, man. People the teachers and leaders, man, they gotta do more. They gotta teach right. And I guess if we start teaching the kids a little less hate, like get the hate out of it and just let them, if you took a Palestinian child that can't really speak yet, right? And you took an Israeli child that can't really speak yet and you put them in the same room, they're going to play together. They're going to play together. They ain't seeing each other as opposition. They ain't seeing each other as hateful. They're seeing each other as two human beings. And I feel like once we could get back to that, once we could get back to looking at each other like, look, you know what? You're my bruh. You know what I'm saying? You my sister. All that other stuff don't matter about your politics, what nation you from, what color your skin is, what religion you follow, or what happened in the past. I can't make you pay for what your ancestors may have done. Same way I don't want you to make me pay for what my ancestors has done. And that's another a talk in itself, because, the topic of racism here in America. And now you got, blacks want to hate whites, so-called blacks want to hate so-called whites because of what their forefathers did. But if you want to go back farther than that, then whites can say, well, I want to hate you for what your forefathers did. You know what I'm saying? Because if you keep going back far enough, man, everybody has done something to everybody, but it's not us. We aren't there. We didn't do it. So why are we holding on? I think it's time to let it all go. All my Palestinian brothers and sisters that's watching this, all my Israeli brothers and sisters that's watching this, Christians, Jews, Muslims, black, white, in between, whatever you want to identify yourself as, let it go. Let it go. We got a beautiful world. We got a lot of stuff that we could really be upset about, really, really be upset about, other than who's going to live in a land that is for everybody. If a country is willing to accept you, or the people of that country are willing to accept you, let it be. If they're not harming you or taking from you, what's the problem? What's the problem? You guys got a unique situation. I know it's a unique situation over there. It's tough, but it's got to be you guys to do it. The governments ain't going to fix it. The Palestinian leaders, you heard what it said in the video. The Palestinian leaders are the Arab leaders at that time. The Arab leaders tried to tell them no, even though the Jewish mayor said you guys can stay, no harm's going to come to you, you won't be hurt. Whereas in the other camps, they're over there slaughtering them. You know what I'm saying? They'll slaughter anybody that's a Jew, slaughter them. But Arabs are welcome. Why not just be there? Why not just get your citizenship there? Why not just accept life the way it is there and keep doing your practice? If it's a religious thing, they got mosque over there. They got churches over there. I think they got like synagogues over there. The temple's not rebuilt, but you know, I think we need more peace, you guys. That's all I'm trying to say. We need more peace over there. Need more peace in the world, and it's got to come from the people. The same thing here in America. If we're going to have peace over here and we're going to get some kind of understanding, that's got to come from us. It's got to come from the people. Turn the news off. Turn it off. Don't even pay attention to it, because it's there to do something to you. It's there to make you feel some type of way, and then see a bias in somebody else that you feel is a part of the problem that you just watched on the news, instead of just taking them for how they are. Disconnect and reconnect with your fellow man. That's my advice. All right. That being said, you guys, I'm going to sign off here. I appreciate you guys with the comments in the comment section. I appreciate all of you all to help support this channel and all the other social media sites that I have. Thank you. You know, this is what I do. So if you guys could, please, right now, like this video. Like this video from me one time. All right. I appreciate it. And if you weren't really help me out, share it out. That would be great. Or pick any video and share it out from off my channel. Tonight I'll be on pill.net, Conspiracy Talks. That one's always fun. Pill.net. If you have not gone over there yet, you need to. It's great. So that being said, I'm gone, guys. Appreciate you. Unite. Don't fight. Be a street light, because only you can be the change you wish to see in the world. And when you get too stressed out, you got to remember to pray, America, because without God, everything falls apart. And I'm also looking for more people to join my organization. I really am. If you're interested in shopping American, buying American, supporting American business, supporting this economy, your fellow Americans, I'd appreciate it if you would just hit me up, shoot me a DM, let me know. And if you can't do that, go to freedomboxinfo.com, fill out the jot form, and I'll be reaching out. I love you guys. Peace. Nope. Hold on. There it is. Oh.